Hello, everyone. My name is Wes Asmal. Welcome to another episode of Tooways to Skin a Cat, a show where we talk career experiences, entrepreneurship, and investments. The main aim is to show that there's more than one way to be successful other than just climbing the corporate ladder. We are live on LinkedIn and YouTube, and the show will be available on podcast by tomorrow. For those who watched quite a few of these, if you know anyone else who'd benefit from watching, please share it with them. Now, if you're joining us live, drop a one in the comments so that we know we're not talking to ourselves, and drop a two in the comments if you're watching the recording. My guest for this week is Masego Malapile, an internal audit manager and also the president of the Toastmasters Club at the Institute of Internal Auditors. Masego, thanks so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure. But let's jump straight into it. Tell us your story. Where do you come from? And even outside of work, who is Masego Malapile? Give us that backstory.
Masego Malapile is a very interesting person, especially outside work. I think work sometimes conditions people to behave in a certain way. But if you want to see how wild they are, just catch them outside work, then you will see their true colors. So Masego Malapile is a leader passionate about everything she does. Doesn't matter what it is. Whatever I touch, I'm passionate about it. If I'm eating that cake, best believe all my mind, body, and soul is in it. I'm just that type of a person. And funny enough, when I started my career, I did not want to become an internal auditor. It was never on the cards at all. In fact, I was studying towards my CASA at the University of Pretoria, and I remember there were a few personal things that happened that did not allow me to carry on with studying for internal audit. And I had to drop out from UP and start again. I started at TUT and I did internal audit. I remember when I was writing my last exam, I was given a job to earn minimum wage. And I said, I'm taking it. Money is money. A win is a win. Like, I'm taking it. As long as I'm in the job market, I'm definitely taking it. And I graduated. I went to UNISA. I finished my advanced diploma and I did my postgraduate in forensic audit as well. So by the time I was done, that's when my career kicked off. While I was busy studying with UNISA, I started with my career as an internal auditor and I had the best experience ever. To round it up, I'm a leader who's passionate about life. I'm a leader who's passionate about things they do. But what I've learned, especially, and I thank God for internal audit, because what I learned is that I did not know how much of a people's person I am until I came into internal audit. And everybody thinks when you're in internal audit, you sit down, all you do is crunch numbers like CAs. Hello. All you do is crunch numbers. You don't talk to anyone. Like literally, when you walk in finance, it's like a morgue, as if you'll wake up somebody from the dead. So quiet. They want to make sure that those numbers are balancing. Internal audit is very human interactive. You deal with information, you deal with people at the same time. Highly human interactive. So in a nutshell, lover of life, lover of people. I'm a leader. Yeah, that's who I am.
Leader, and maybe a little bit more about outside of work, if you can give us a little bit more.
Outside of work, what is it that I don't do? So outside of work, I run a podcast called Empower Talks. The reason why I created the podcast is because I wanted to empower anyone in any space, in any industry. Doesn't matter what it is. It could be cooking, fishing, farming, whatever it is, where people that have businesses that are either in the process of either succeeding or have succeeded can encourage other people. We touch on different topics, man, like psychological issues, wellness, mindfulness. We touch on different topics. You don't even have to be an expert with a PhD for you to be part of that podcast. So, and also we showcase anyone who has a business, who would like to promote their business on that particular platform, and it's on YouTube. Secondly, I'm the president of the IASA Toastmasters Club, right? So yeah, interesting. So
I've
the club
got
was
some
started.
questions on that one for you, definitely.
Let me just dig into it once and for all. So this Toastmasters Club was started by the institution. It was started by the institution in 2020. I remember I attended an AGM where the previous CEO said, look, we are looking into upskilling internal auditors of soft skills because you're working with people, dealing with people. You need to know how to do it, the type of communicators they are. You need to know how to speak to them because there's a lot you learn from Toastmasters, right? From how you should communicate and how the people that you're communicating with are, the types of communicators that they are. And it's an actual educational program with certificates that are actually recognizable. I always say this. If you go to Toastmasters and you upskill yourself and you finish a level, you can take that as part of your performance review and say, this is what I did. So basically that's Toastmasters. And when it started, I remember I reached out to the institution and I said, I want to be part of Toastmasters. When they started it, it was hard because none of us knew exactly what Toastmasters is. At that time, I was just a normal member. I was not an executive. I was nothing. And what is it? 2023, almost 3 years later, the club is still there, it's still active, and it's still limited to only internal auditors that are members of the institute.
Okay, amazing. You touched on it a little bit when you said you actually started studying one thing and ended up in internal audit. We don't hear much about the internal audit qualification in the mainstream, or maybe I'm just missing it. But can you tell us a little bit more about what an internal auditor does?
An internal auditor is very diverse. So I call us risk, control, and governance expert because that's exactly what you do. That's what you specialize in. As an internal auditor, for those that don't know what internal auditors do, we do not sit like we're in a morgue and crunching numbers. No, we don't. We look at the business risks, right? And then we review based on the business risks. And regulations and even our approach in audit has changed over time because of COVID. The world is changing. So obviously our approach changes both as an internal audit in the industry and also even in different organizations. We respond to risks differently. There are different things that we do. We look at risks in the business. We look at what could hinder the business from carrying on. And then we go and we plan on how we're going to approach it. Remember, risk, control, governance expert. We look at what are the policies that the business has, what is the strategy, what is the governance structure of the business, where do the decisions come from, top down, bottom up. So this is the planning. We haven't started auditing. We then look at the risk, we prioritize them according to management, and then we start with the planning of the audit, the engagement itself. When we sit down and we audit, we look at the controls that business has and the processes that the business has, and we audit you according to them. Our job, which we often get as internal auditors, which is why there's so much pushback as many businesses, that internal auditors are there to get somebody fired. I'm not an external auditor. I'm not saying external auditors get people fired. I'm not an external audit. Those are the real people you should fear.
No, they don't get people fired either.
You see, so it's not even true at all levels. So internal auditors are not there to fire anyone. We just need to make sure that as a business, are you mitigating your risks? And by mitigating, we look at the controls. Are the controls in line with the risks that you have? And are they actually effective? And what type of controls are they? Do you apply them before, after? Are you proactive, reactive? So there are a lot of questions that we ask ourselves with that particular control. Then we look for evidence to see whether or not the control is working accordingly as intended by management, and we report. We don't just report, we report with recommendations. Recommendations that we provide to business looks at whether or not it's viable, it's cost effective, and we don't just recommend something like you need to go join Elon Musk and get on a spaceship and go to the moon that will save your business. No, we look at whether it's cost effective or not, whether it will be worth the business while to even change it. Would you like to spend more time changing something that is so minimal as opposed to something that is so maximum? So we are very interactive in terms of the business processes. Therefore, the number one priority of an internal audit is that you need to understand the process of the business that you are auditing. You need to understand the business that you're auditing. And one thing that is being undermined a lot in our industry, particularly, is the culture of the business that most people don't learn, is that you need to be able to understand the culture of the business.
And am I correct that, like, in terms of size of organization, it's mainly larger organizations that have internal auditors? If somebody's thinking of working in small businesses, or I suppose if you want to study internal audit, you're going to work for a listed company or a very large organization. Is that correct?
Not really. So there are small, medium-sized enterprises that do have internal auditors, but majority of them prefer outsourcing it. So they will look for a minimum internal, like a small internal audit firm, not like your top or your tip. I don't know what they call it these days. So your tip or top, they won't look at an audit firm and say, please come and audit for us. There are other internal audit firms out there. I'll give you an example. Proziloc, one of our mentors work there. They own the company. They'll go in and they will audit on their behalf. But it depends on the business. You need to look at the cost and the resources, right? Resources as in, are you available? Do you have the time? Can you employ staff members that can perform internal audits for yourself? But businesses, honestly, they are not forced to have internal auditors internally, to be honest. So they just choose to have them because you'd rather trust the person that works with you internally as opposed to a person that's externally. And also some regulations, depending on the industry, they require that a company have an internal audit department internally.
And I'm assuming every listed company would need to have an internal audit.
It depends where they're listed. It
Okay.
depends where they're listed. But probably yes. With the JSE, to be honest, I've never worked for a JSE listed company. I've only worked for a New York Stock Exchange listed company.
Okay.
So there, it's required to have either of the two or both, but you have to have internal audit internally, according to SOX.
Okay. And how does one, for again, for people who only finding out about internal audit now, how does someone qualify as an internal auditor? Maybe take us through the journey of getting to that qualification.
So you need to have a degree and possibly an honors or postgraduate. They change things these days in internal audit. Even if you don't, you need to be a registered member. I always say that professionalism depends on the organization you are part of. So that's why I always encourage anyone who is using the term internal audit as a profession to be members of the Institute of Internal Auditors, because that's where your professionality comes from. It will hold you accountable for a lot of things, including integrity, confidentiality, the code of ethics, how you should conduct yourself, the attributes of an internal auditor. So you need to be a professional member. So start by looking for a university, firstly, that can offer you world-class best internal audit courses. Then afterwards, do your honors. After doing your honors, you can register for membership with IIA. That's where now you are more knowledgeable on what's happening in the industry now. Because what I've learned is what you learn from school versus what you experience at work, two different things, depending on the industry that you're in. Then afterwards, some go the article route, some don't. Some companies look for internal auditors with absolutely no experience. They give you the technical know-how, they train you. Some prefer going to an audit firm, which is a choice with internal auditors. They go to audit firm and then they train, they do their articles for 3 years or 2 years or so, and then they move on to becoming internal audit specialists. So the journey is quite easy. It's not that hard. But if you don't have internal audit qualifications, or let's say, for example, you have an accounting degree, a forensic audit degree, or even a postgraduate, or any other degree within the commerce section, you can still go and become an internal auditor, but the journey in terms of learning will still be the same. You do your articles, you train, become a junior specialist, and then you start moving way up from there. But firstly, can I be honest? Ask yourself, do you really want to become an internal audit? Like, before you go far, that's the first question you must ask yourself. Did your parents say you must do it, or do you really want to become an internal auditor? Because it comes at a cost. So if you're one person because that's one thing that you don't learn from school. They don't tell you that internal audit, whether we like it or not, if you're not at a firm, you're internal, could be very lonely, because nobody wants to sit and have coffee with you. At that time, you are an extrovert. So there's some things they don't tell you about internal audit that I wish they could have told us.
And is there anything like a board exam or some equivalent to that as well that people need to write?
Yes, actually. Thank you for reminding me. So the Institute of Internal Auditors have a certified board exam called CIA, Certified Internal Auditors, which has 3 parts. Firstly, you must qualify. And for you to qualify, you must be an associate member. They will correct me if I'm wrong. You must be an associate member. And if you're a member, you can qualify to write Part 1, Part A, Part B, Part C. And when you register and the Global Institute of Internal Auditors approves your application, you have up to 3 years to complete your Part 1, Part 2, and Part 3. So these are the board exams that you need to write.
Okay. For the audience, we'll be responding to questions towards the end. So if you do have questions, please add them to the comment section now so that we don't miss them. I want to switch back a little bit to Toastmasters. We mentioned that you told us that the Institute has their own Toastmasters, but for somebody who's hearing Toastmasters for the first time, what is Toastmasters?
Woo! Let me see. Do I need to give you a politically correct answer?
Give us the honest answer. Give us the honest answer.
Toastmasters is a 99-year-old organization that teaches professionals, or that gives professionals leadership, communication, and speaking skills. Simple. The technicalities is how it's done. So when you want to become part of Toastmasters, right, you can either reach out to the institution or you can reach out to us, whichever way. Now, when you become part of Toastmasters, Toastmasters give you 11 or 13 pathways. Pathway is like a program you want to embark on. So with this program, you take a survey and you look at what is it that you actually need to work on. When I started, I wanted to work on my coaching skills. I wanted to start working on my persuasive influence skills. I want to be able to persuade people when I speak. So those are the two courses that I took. We call them courses, but it's actually pathway. Then when you start, then they would say, okay, now that you have chosen your pathway, let's start with your program. There are 5 levels that you need to complete. It's up to you how you complete it or when you complete it. As long as you pay your membership, as and when you need to pay your membership, your courses or your program will be active. So meaning that it's 3 months, you must finish. No, the first level, it's like introduction to speaking. This is where now they gauge your comfort level. They teach you technical skills of speaking, like structuring your speech, vocal variety, your posture, gestures, all of that. And also they teach you critical listening in a form of evaluation. So Toastmasters is a peer-on-peer assessment. So now you need to learn how to evaluate another Toastmaster, which is another internal auditor who works for another organization, and tell them on how are they doing, or how are they speaking, or how are they improving. Level 2 is all about leadership and communication. Those are the two things you learn. They give you different types of leadership styles as per the research that they did. And then you have a look at it to identify the type of leader that you are. You come back, you present a speech. Then they give you communication skills as well. Different types of communication skills. The list is not exhaustive. Again, you learn and then you identify your communication skills. You come back, you present a speech, and then they give you mentorship, mentee, and mentorship courses or program. What I like about this is that in most of our career journeys, we do not point or pick a mentor that we think will help us in our careers. Some people are CEOs. They didn't wake up as CEOs of major companies. No, they had somebody to mentor them to get to that level. It helps you to manage the mentor-mentee relationship. It's funny how we think we don't have to learn that, but we actually do need to learn it. You need to know that as the mentee, what are your obligations? As the mentor, what are your obligations? It's important for you to know that. And then you tell us about your experiences. You come back and you present a speech. Level 3, 4, and 5, that technically depends on the pathway that you have learned. Some of them, it's about engaging with a difficult audience where you're speaking and point of order. No, you cannot say that. So they teach you how to be calm and handle that situation, and somebody will give you feedback on that, of which in our walks in life, especially as an internal auditor, you do deal with difficult people regularly. So that's level 4 and 5. By the time you're done with the pathway, you can do another one. But the aim, just like being a CIA, is to be a distinguished Toastmaster. Now, what happens in a Toastmasters meeting? We meet twice a month on Mondays from 6 until 8. In the program, we have role players. A meeting is not like you're sitting down, it's a board meeting, and somebody says, yeah, let's talk. Or what are the findings? Or something like that. It's very chilled. In fact, we have a motto. If it's not fun, it's not Toastmasters. In a meeting, we have a role player. The first role player is the Toastmaster of the day, which we call the MC. Yes, we have an MC. I don't know why we're supposed to call it an event. For some reason, we're not calling it an event. With the MC, or they run the entire program. That skill teaches you to be a critical listener, a people's person, and you must be able to read the room and also connect the room and engage with everyone. MC skills are the best, I must say. You learn them as a Toastmaster of the day. Then you have a timekeeper. You see, I've been talking for a long time. A timekeeper would have said, "Hi, you've been talking, girl. It's time to stop." Because time is money, hey? Time is money. The time you spend, the money you lose. So we make sure that if you're allowed to speak for 7 minutes, speak for 7 minutes. Don't speak for 10 minutes. Nobody has time to listen to you the whole day. So they need to make sure that you are accountable for time. Secondly, then we have a grammarian. The language that we speak, called English, doesn't really belong to most of us. So the grammarian, they check on our usage of the English language. We do have slang words that we think are correct, but they are not. To be honest, like no cap. That's slang. That's not real English. That's not real English. So they look out for things like that and they give you the word of the day. So with the word of the day, you practice to use a word that is unusual that you've never used before. In most cases, aligned with the theme of the day. Then you also have an accounter. An accounter looks for filler words. Filler words are the word sounds that you use. Yes. It's the reason why it occurs that most people don't know. So your brain moves very fast. It processes information and your lips must catch up with your brain. So some way, somehow, your brain is still filtering the files, but your lips is on a roll and you have nothing to give out. So what do?
Like
Yeah,
the
yeah. So Toastmasters teaches you that once you recognize what causes the filler word, you'll know how to filter. So in most cases, I pause just like that instead of
yeah,
saying, then there's a meeting. the second part, which is the part B. This is where now every member that went and prepared. Remember, I said there's a program. You go and you read about it. You do your studies, and you come back. You present a speech. Then you come back. You present your speech. Somebody gives you feedback on your speech, and that's basically it.
Two things that jumped out at me is I did not realize that it was so well, not that it is formal, but I didn't realize there was that amount of structure in terms of, okay, these levels that you need to get to. And something that also jumped out at me is the fact that I knew it was about speaking, but I didn't know that it was about active listening as well. And that's also a skill that you pick up. So that's something that I've definitely learned. And that's one thing that I just want to reflect on just before we jump. I see there's a big question coming through from the audience. I want to jump over to that one. We've got a question from Tokozisi, who says he's a junior internal auditor by profession, excited about his career, but it's discouraging hearing people speak about CAs that are preferred over internal audit roles. So that's one question. And the second question is regarding where to do this training. He's not sure if we missed that. Okay, there's three questions here. So I'm going to read it all and we can always go through it again. And the third question is the difference between one person training in-house versus one trained at an accounting firm. And then number 4 is the growth opportunities. What's the market like? Okay, so let's break it down. He's come with all the information.
Mtokosisi, you just literally gave me a watermelon because it's the season for watermelons. You're like, here you go. So in terms of, okay, let me see. I'm a junior internal auditor by profession. I'm really excited about our career. However, discouraging hearing people speak about CAs that are preferred over the internal audit roles. That's the honest truth. In fact, that's one of the challenges that we discussed even with our internal audit conferences, that in most cases, when you find that they are looking for particularly a manager's role, they will always say, we are looking for a CA. To be honest, I don't think business do it intentionally. Right? I don't think so. I think they prefer CA because of the credibility that they hold, but it's not that CIAs are not, but for companies that understand the value and the difference between internal and external audit, they would jump up and say, we're looking for a CIA in most cases. Right? So because you're still certified, you're still a professional. Yes, it's true. It is discouraging for some and for most people, which is what I believe. I'm not sure. I won't speak for the institution, that I don't think it's within the hands necessarily of me as an individual working for one organization and say, I can only change things in my organization. However, it is the role of the institutions to put internal audit out there and market it accordingly, and also show the public and educate. I think the issue is the education part. Educate organizations that a CA focuses on this and internal audit focuses on this. This is the difference. If you're looking for this type of a manager, this is what you're going to get. If you're looking for this type of a manager, this is what you're going to get. And soon and very soon, to be honest with you, Togos, we won't only struggle with CAs, we'll also struggle with CISA as well, with a certified internal auditor, certified information system auditors. Reason being, now that we're moving into the digital world, soon and very soon, organizations won't understand what is it that the internal audit actually has to offer when you have someone that can break down the system and give us IT controls and application controls that we need to look into as an organization. After all, the systems, they process our data. Now, so don't be discouraged, to be honest with you. Just make sure that you are, qualified in multifacets, meaning that have your CIA, have your CISA, have your CRMA, have your whatever, just pile them up so that you can be, but to be honest,
branding.
I think, yes.
Is the institute not doing anything about that, or is it just something that they haven't focused on yet?
I'm not sure about the institution, but to be honest, it's their role. It's their role. I'm not sure. I'm not involved in the management of the institution, so I wouldn't know, right? So it's their role as the institution to solidify and secure the jobs of internal auditors. That's their role, right? Both locally and internationally. So I'm not sure what is it that they are doing currently. I don't want to lie. I don't want to speak for them. So my second question is regarding training. Where did you do your training? I'm not sure if I missed that. My internal audit career was interesting, to be honest with you. I was thrown into it. It was not my first love, neither was it my first choice. I would say if you want to become a well-versed internal audit, go to an audit firm, but I've never worked for a firm before, so I wouldn't know. However, when you're working for a company internally, when they say they're looking for either interns or junior internal auditors, some way, somehow, you are able to get exposed to the planning, fieldwork, and reporting at the same time. So that's the full scope of audit. As a junior, that's a lot, to be honest. You learn with the hardships, what is it that you need to plan, how to draft your system description, how to draft your controls, how to communicate with management, how to all of that as a junior. For me, that's a plus. I've never worked for an audit firm, so I wouldn't know what's the structure of an audit firm or whether or not it's even good or what. I can only advise based on what I've been actually part of. And the third question is the difference between one person training in-house versus one trained at an accounting firm. I can't tell. I cannot tell. Growth opportunities, how's the market like?
That's a big sigh there. That's a big sigh.
Ah, yeah. Yeah. I like to believe that there are most companies that are employing for internal auditors. But to be honest, I'm not sure. I think we can ask a recruiter in terms of the market, like your network finance, they would know how is the market looking for internal auditors. But in my role, yes, there are growth everywhere. There is growth everywhere. You can get a job everywhere. But I don't know how the market is looking like. I don't want to lie. You see a lot
Okay,
of
so
posts.
okay, so they are posts. Okay, so it's not
Yeah,
you made
there
me
are
worried
posts.
there. Okay,
I
okay,
can't
okay. No,
say,
that's good.
yeah,
Okay, so maybe go to a specialist in Tokozisi when you want to find out
please.
about the market. But any last few words from you or anything we didn't discuss that you'd like the audience to know?
One thing that I did that I'm always proud of, and I want everyone to know, is that I learned that starting an internal audit department is hard. So I started the internal audit department a long time ago. There are a lot of things that I've learned that I didn't even know. I had to firstly, it's like it's not just about the audit itself, but it's also about the introduction of the culture to the business. That's when I understood the value of people, and that's what pushed me to go to Toastmasters because I really needed to give the company that I work for the best value that I can give, both from a soft skill with the soft skills I have and the technicalities I got. Along the process, obviously, I had to upskill myself in whichever way that I can so that I can still offer services to the business. But starting the department in a company that didn't have internal audit, of all things I've done, that's the hardest. And for me, that's my greatest achievement. So, to the company that gave me that opportunity, honestly, I'd like to thank them. I don't want to lie. I like to thank them. It's not every company that will risk and give someone and say, we trust you with our business. We trust you with the decision we make. We trust you with our secrets also. Here you go. Here's a department. Go start it. For me, it was a great plus. I won't lie. There's a lot that I can say about it. In fact, we need 3 hours to talk about the steps that I followed when I speak about risk universe, blah, blah, blah. I'm just literally giving you high levels, but there's more to it. There's really, really more to it than what we've been discussing today. So if you want to know more about the Institute, about internal audit, the Institute of Internal Auditors is there. There are technical teams. There's everyone who can help you and guide you. There are lecturers at your schools. UJ has Letiwe Mzamasitole, Dr. Letiwe Mzamasitole, who is a lecturer there. You can speak to her if you're in UJ, if you're in UP. There are other lecturers in UP or any other university that you go to, even in TUT. One of the people that actually made me love internal audit, even though I didn't choose it, Dr. Audrey Lehodi, is the one who helped me actually understand. I was even having a chat with her that if I want to go into teaching, how do I go about it? She advised me and guided me well. But mostly seek a mentor. If you don't know your direction or you don't know where to go, look for a mentor. Look for a mentor, someone who will guide you in your career. It doesn't matter whether it's business, it's life in general, or it's even with your career. Look for a mentor.
I think that's a good way to end. Look for a mentor that applies to any young professional in any field. The show has been live on YouTube and should be available on podcast by tomorrow. If you're watching on YouTube or listening on the podcast and you feel that it's added value, don't forget to like, subscribe, and click on that notification bell to get automatically notified when the next episode comes out. Masego, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Thanks everyone for joining us for another episode of Two Ways to Skin a Cat. Goodbye.